town laid out, 4 different options at the last meeting, and it was, pretty much went over that the number 4 options definitely would be best way possible to go, that we'd be able to optimize the most amount of DNR dollars. I forget exactly what it was, but, and that number 4 would be us chipping in $50,000. And that would be having a full-time extra officer. I'm under the impression that we agreed on that number.
It's in the budget.
It's in the budget.
We did agree on
Yep.
do it. It's in the budget.
And that's something that I think we should move forward with.
We'll find out, we're gonna find out.
Need a total program.
Just on this, I think it's important not just to have police presence, but to have trained police presence that's actually gonna do something. Came through the channel, and police was exiting the channel on the other end after a boat had come through with a pretty hefty weight against it, so they had seen it, and nothing was done. So, we've had police officers who will pull you over and say something like, do you have this on the boat? And somebody says yes, and we don't need to stop everybody for everything, but I don't think that's effective either. I mean, I'm on the lake, that should be the yes. So I think we need training or full-time. That's my comment.
First, Chairman Bergen, thank you for championing this initiative. It's long in coming. My only question is 50 enough? How did you get to the 50 number? And if we want to get those trained officers who are actually going to help people be better voters, I mean, I know a good piece of this is deterrence. A good part of it could be community building with that boat or boats. Is 50 enough?
I don't know if that was the number that was provided in part by the town.
I think you want a program first, to study it and see what you need before you determine how much you need. I think you have to work into it, determine what kind of program it's gonna be, and then the last thing you do is address the finances.
Well, let's just say, if you come back and ask for more next year, it shouldn't be surprising.
Maybe?
What am I going to? Can I go to the gentleman behind Rich?
What about consulting, finding out if a current officer, retired, or another officer is interested in being paid as a private consultant, under the auspices of the person that's a policeman, but that we get them at our hours and we get to select who it is and what they do, the job description.
I think all options are on the table. I think one of the things that was discussed, often we see an officer on a center console boat, a single officer, which makes it very hard to do any kind of stop, is having that retired person or police officer in training. So a young, person at either end that's perhaps at a slightly lower rate that is a little bit more palatable to the budget. So the town is looking at several options as to how we can actually make this happen. And I go with Rich and then I'll be back.
Yeah, and Chairman, is he still here? Yeah, and it wasn't just, he was gathering different dollars from different sources. So, 50 from here, it's gonna be like 20 some from DNR. They were gonna take some of the launch fees, the town was gonna chip in. His plan that he showed last meeting, and the police chief put together, and then have the safety officer also, so the college kids that are interning there. I think that is a great plan. And if it costs a little more each year, then that's where we go, but we can put it all together like he's doing. And I think, like you said, if we do get that full-time officer on the lake, one is I think they should be trained for rescue, because I tell you what, if they pull up and some kid's underwater and they say, we don't go in the water, they gotta be trained to be rescue swimmers. And two is write some tickets, by rights, they can't stop you, you know that without a violation, they can't check for an extinguisher or life jackets, only the DNR can do that. The police department cannot do that, but they do need to write some tickets. And we've seen it where we had to point things out to them, and they finally did this year. But I agree with you, not enough. They gotta keep their head on a swivel and stop everybody that violates and write them a ticket, cause that'll calm the whole lake down. The word will get out.
Talking about the Protect Lake Beulah would have a legal bylaw to be able to contract with a law enforcement person as a contractual person. Huh?
No.
I think you need
Retired policeman somewhere.
So there's 4 options laid out. Basically, you went through the 4 different options, on what everybody had to donate to each one of those options. And it was brought in front of the chief looked over all the options, and you can look it up under, the town board notes. So option 4 was what kind of was the consensus by the chief, that would be by far the easiest way to manage, and we'd get the most amount of dollars possible from the DNR. So that would actually be hiring an extra officer for the boating season, full-time officer. Go ahead.
Want me to add to it?
Yeah, go for it.
The other critical component is the community service officers. Those are people that you can pick up for like $20 an hour. So they're not a full-fledged officer, but they can shadow an officer and they give him the ability to do his job. That is all gonna be managed by the police chief. That way, there's no issues with who you can stop or who you can't stop and for what. There's gonna be, all the training's gonna go through the police department. I'm not sure that a secondary effort, would be beneficial without some level of coordination. Plus, the DNR will only fund one, boat patrol type operation in a, definitely in a lake, and probably in our town. I think they only give you reimbursements to one organization. So that's why we've had all these discussions. We're talking about, you can go and apply for another capital investment in a second boat. I don't know if we're at the 10-year mark or not, but those are all things that we will consider to try and get a second boat on here, maybe sell the big one and get one more appropriate for the lakes that we're on. All of this is being discussed, and that's the objective, to make sure. What happened, I believe, and I don't know this for a fact, I just took office in May, all right? But I think what happened is the DNR said, we're not paying overtime anymore, and I think we stopped putting overtime officers on here because the expense was piling up, and the chief didn't have the budget for it. Don't quote me, but I think that might be what happened in this interim year. And so what we're trying to do for 26 is to pick up the amount of coverage, and I think it was 4, I don't have my memo with me.
Yeah.
Is it 4 times the hours? I can't remember. But it's 4 or 5 times the hours. So we're gonna definitely pick it up in 26. And that's why we needed all this discussion before the budget workshop in the fall.
Okay? Oh, I'm sorry, I think
I just wanted to say that the police were out Sunday morning at 9:40 a.m. and they watched the entire sailboat race, because they're right out in front of our house. But all summer long, there has been a 2-seater jet ski towing kids on a tube. So there's 2 people on the jet ski and 2 to 3 kids in the tube, which is totally illegal, and they have never been stopped. And it's been every other weekend, most of the summer. So I'm just adding to her response of they're being trained to know what the regulations are.
Next. All right, we have one more.
I have a question. Do you have an idea how much these 2 lawsuits are going to be costing you?
Can we get to that item in the end? I don't think we're past that.
You have no idea,
I don't.
really, and you're a lawyer. Okay, so on average, maybe you'll be spending 50, 60 grand. That sounds like a pretty nice boat for the lake.
Okay, thank you.
Pretty bad.
Are we ready for the audit committee?
Yes, item 12. Mr. Barrett.
Good evening. I just want to thank the board for allowing me to submit the audit results for 2024 Lake Beulah Management District. I submitted my report to Chris Kubicek, treasurer, and he'll submit that to the board as well. So here I go. So after reviewing the financial records of the Lake Beulah Management District in accordance with the audit procedure, I have confidence that the balance sheet correctly shows the strong financial conditions of the Lake Beulah Management District. The income statement versus the budget is accurate with the following exceptions and recommendations. There was 3 of them for the budget. The water quality management, USGS, the budget exceeded by $1,810. And it was, the reason for that was found later on that USGS double invoiced the management district, and that can happen. You get somebody new at the USGS, but it happens. But they corrected it, they found it. So, but that was the reason why it went over. Number 2 was the well number 7 monitoring expense exceeded the budget by $264. And the third one was the lake bed monitoring expense exceeded the budget by $1,486. And then one of the testing, one of the 6 testing is reviewing the checks, and there was 1 check that was non-budgetary disbursement over $2,500, and the vendor was someone local here in East Troy Marine for a purchase of a 25 horsepower marine engine. And the check reference number is 3481 in the amount of $3,497. And later on, the minutes showed that they were approved by the Lake Management District Board in May of 2024. So my recommendations for the board is to continually review and adjust the budget due to inflation.
And legal
Thank you.
fees.
Thank you.
And legal fees.
Commissioner Cooper.
All right, the treasurer's got 2 items coming up. The first one is to review the current year financial reports, which is for the first half, and a line of credit review, and then the second item is the budget for 2026. And the financial information is on the website for the first half, and our expenses, you can simplify them by breaking into 3 buckets: administrative, plant harvesting, and then weed and water control. For the 25 budget year, the administrative budget was $91,800, and the year-to-date spending was $83,569, which did exceed our expected spending by 42% as of the half year. The plant harvesting and control was $83,493 was the approved budget. We've spent $17,931 to date, which is about half of what we expect to spend by the end of June. The weed and water control budget is $21,000, and we've already exceeded that budget, $23,754, and that is exceeding our expected spending by 83%. The fourth item on the expenses we had on the budget, 2025, $75,000 we budgeted for a new dump truck, and the board approved buying a new truck, and that was back in January, and that truck was more expensive than we thought. It was $90,370. Now the details to that budget are posted, And rather than me go through all the details, I'll just ask, are there any questions on any specific line item that was spent until for yes, the first half of 25?
Yeah, your lawsuits, how much do you have?
I don't have that broken down specifically, but our attorney expenses to this point of the year have been $76,248.
Okay, but I'm still confused on you, how you can apply, just go out and do 2 lawsuits and not have a clue what you're going to be budgeting for, how much it's gonna spend. That I don't understand. How you can just
Well-
frivolously go do this and do 2 lawsuits and not have a clue what you're gonna spend.
We do have a forecast of what we're spending for attorneys for this year that's included in the budget for 26. Now, that attorney spending $76,000, I don't have the breakdown on which lawsuits those were, but my recollection is around $10,000 to $20,000 of that was for, we were negotiating, there was a riparian owner that was trying to put in a pier across an environmentally sensitive area, and the DNR had some issues, and we had to spend a lot of funds with that to get that straightened out. The rest of that attorney fees is mostly what you're thinking about. But I
Okay,
don't have
so,
the exact
so if
breakdown.
you're projecting for next year, what do you think you're going to need? Because you know you have 2 lawsuits
Right.
going,
Well-
and they can last up to 18 months.
And we'll talk about that in the 26 budget, which is the next item. So we'll get through this, what we spent to this year. And then we'll get to your
I
question.
just, it's unbelievable.
Are there any other questions on spending for this year, the first half of June? Okay. Now I think we're ready to go on to the proposed budget. So in the packet of materials, there is the budget with a lot of line items on it. Okay, and I could go down through each item and read off every number, but I think it'd be better if people have questions or they want an explanation or comments on any particular item. Let's do it that way, and we'll see how that goes. All right, Rich.
As far as the budget and the litigation, you guys in the management district, we expect you to protect the lake and manage things. So, I can tell you the same people would be squawking right now if you guys did nothing. If you didn't spend any money, if you didn't go after the hotel, if you didn't do these things, these same people would be complaining. You gotta remember, the biggest complainers are the ones, is the reason why the litigation's going on over here.
Who's complaining?
Well.
You can't talk to them.
So, the people that, I mean, in comments that I see, they're the reason why we're going into litigation. I want everybody to remember this, that, you know, if somebody with the marina would've cooperated in the beginning, we wouldn't be here. We would probably have, he probably would've got, you know, more lenience from you guys, and probably would've got his way, but instead he wanted to play the game of, you know, I'll do what I want. And if you look at his history.
So let's just keep the comments about the budget.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's,
So anyways,
Okay, budget.
the money being spent for certain things, that's what it's there for, you know, I mean, as far as the weed cutting, litigation, protecting the lake. I just wanted to make sure people realize that that's why we have the management district, because nobody else is gonna be able to do this, nobody else protects the lake with the budget that they have. You know, we can't do it on our own, so that's my.
may I comment? Can I be recognized?
You may.
Okay. Why would the county with zoning experts unanimously, whatever, vote on approving everything? Why? Okay? This is my question.
Okay, so, back to the budget. I mean, I can point out a few items that are important to me. So, the proposal for 2026 is to increase our tax rate by $30,000. So it'd be a total tax roll of $220,000. that is roughly a little over $400 per repair number. So when you look at your tax bill and you see how big it is, the management district is really a sliver of that. Additionally, we're projecting the attorney expenses for 2025 to be $90,000. And I don't know exactly. I mean, we got 5 months to go. For 2026, our proposal is to be $70,000 for attorney's fees. The other important one, repairs and maintenance under plant harvesting expense. We may need to repair our riprap area on the management district property, which is the lake frontage by where Double D's was. So we're considering improving that riprap, and so we've budgeted $15,000 for that. The other large item is the aquatic plant survey. It costs us, we're expecting $25,000 to hire the firm and come out and do a plant managed survey, and that is what is required to get the DNR permit to harvest the aquatic plants. And then the bottom line, or not the bottom line, towards the bottom, there's a contingency voter safety line where we budgeted $50,000. And when we put this budget together, we do this in June, because we have to get our materials together by the end of June to get it out and to get published. So it's 6 weeks ago. And the best number we had then, we were guessing, was $50,000. So with that, I'll ask, are there any specific questions again on any of the budget items? All right, Gary.
Thanks for that walkthrough. This maybe is more of a matter of granularity and disclosure. Not so much because people are asking these questions, but it's hard to ask questions if you don't see the information. So just ask the board, how have you interpreted the bylaw or statutory provision which says that you should tell us about things that cost more than $10,000? I don't know why that was ever established. I don't know the policy behind it. It just references any item in excess of 10,000. It seems like a very low threshold. But if I go back 10 years to some of the budgets, you will see unusual things like well defense fund. That must have been something related to litigation. All I'm suggesting is the more your constituency knows about what you're specifically spending on, the more we're going to understand kind of what's happening. So again, this is, I don't have a particular view on this other than if you're getting comments back on the budget, are they because we're not understanding it well enough? So,
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on the budget?
I know you made that budget in June, but can't you put the water patrol in your budget and not leave it in the contingency fund?
Well, it is, I mean, it's the line we have is, we could remove the word contingency and call it voter safety. Just leave it at voter safety. And it's in the budget, I mean, towards the bottom.
Like,
I mean, there's a lot of numbers here.
Like in the next year, 27. So
I think if I could just make a comment, I think the comment is it should be a regular component of the budget, not a contingent item. And if it's a regular component of the budget, and we're still able to only raise taxes 30,000, that's a really good thing. So this is 50,000 allocation. So the larger point is just going forward to expect that that's going to be there. It's almost like a third segment of your budget: administrative, weed control, water quality, water safety.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right. Is there a motion on the floor at all in regards to the budget?
Need somebody to preferably move to adopt the budget as presented.
I'll move to adopt the 2026 budget as amended.
Okay, is there a second from somebody?
I'll second.
And your name, please?
Andrea Lee.
All right,
Does he
we'll
live
take a
in-
vote, voice vote to start. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
All right. We have a proposed amendment to the Lake Beulah Management District bylaws. If he would be so kind, I would ask Attorney English to handle this one. You've all heard from me enough.
Thank you, Chairman. So, a little bit of background. These are the district's bylaws. So they're not my bylaws, they're the district's bylaws. So, the project started with now just kind of looking at some of the items in the bylaws and potential changes. The big one was quorum. So the quorum was at 3. We are a board of 7. Most boards tend to have a quorum at majority. So the first start was, okay, let's change the quorum to 4. As part of the process, I just went through and did my own cleanup in terms of how some of the organization was. So I know that there was a lot of questions about who gets to vote. So that was kind of addressed in Article 1. And that's why you see a lot of the redlining is cleaning things up. There were other suggested changes that I've made as I went through the document. I did present this at the July board meeting. The board did recommend it for approval. But really, they're my changes, but they're for your bylaws. So I guess with that, I'm happy to take any questions. This is open for suggestions too. So the board is recommending it as is, but if there's any suggestions that the majority would approve, those can be made as well. So happy to take any questions or suggestions. Yes, Mr. Strauss.
I have a question. It seems a little peculiar that if a commissioner abruptly retires before his term is up, that the chairperson is allowed to insert whoever he chooses to put in that spot. Why don't we have some kind of mechanism where you have a election where the rest of the riparian owners that pay into the district have an opportunity to run, like the gentleman, the 2 guys did tonight? It just seems like you get more of the same ilk if you have the guy who's the chairperson finding the temporary replacements to fill out the remainder of the other commissioners that abruptly retired.
Sure, so let me address that particular provision. So we're in Article 5, Section 4, vacancies. The way the mechanism worked, and there was no real changes proposed for this bylaw amendment, but the way it had been previously was the chairperson appoints somebody and the board approves. So it's subject to board approval to fill any vacancies.
So what would it take to amend the bylaws to allow a general election to replace the early leaving or early retiring commissioner off the board, so it's more open to the electors that are paying in for this?
Yeah, so, I mean, essentially what you described, there would have to be some type of mechanism.
What's the
that would
procedure?
call for a special meeting to elect a commissioner to fill a vacancy.
So would that be done at an annual meeting, or is that something that gets put on the agenda and voted on by the board, or how does that work?
This is the hardest thing. It can work any way the district wants it to work. So, I mean, you could have an option where within, say, 60 or 90 days, you have a special meeting and there's an election to fill that vacancy for the rest of the term.
Okay, I make a motion that we do that.
Let me just finish
Sorry.
answering your question. You could have another complete option too. You have a mechanism where the board, chairperson appoints, board approves until the next annual meeting, and then the membership would vote. So that we don't have to call a special meeting, publish, go through what we did through tonight if you wanted to avoid it.
But I think in full transparency, if somebody can't finish their term on the board, they shouldn't allow the board to pick the replacement that covers the last remaining tenure of that commissioner's time. It should be put back, because that would maybe keep some of the commissioners to fill their full commitments out instead of leaving early. Because there's been a pattern that's been developing here, going back to when Chairperson Bergen got put on. He replaced Dave, and subsequently Commissioner Dennett got put on when he replaced Commissioner Alger. So there's a pattern here where there's less accountability by the riparian owners, and it seems there's more, I don't want to use the word cronyism, but there seems to be more like-minded people being put on by the chairperson. So I just wish there was a way that we could reverse that so that the people that are paying for all this have an opportunity to run. If they want to do change, maybe they can step up, run a campaign, and do it. But we need to have some kind of mechanism in place that changes the bylaws so that some of the onus can be decided by the people that are paying for it.
Thank you for sharing your opinion. Yes?
What does the town board do? Do they do a special election, or they just decide among themselves?
Unfortunately, I'm only the attorney for the districts. I don't know what the town board does. Various government entities have various procedures, so if you ever follow, national politics, sometimes the governor appoints, to finish out the term. Sometimes there's called a special elections, so every state, every community is different. It's really hard to say. It's very personal to what that electorate wants to do.
So the town just did this, and Barb was there when, Tarkowski resigned, and then his spot was filled by, Chad Whale. So how did it happen?
My spot was filled by Chad. What ended up happening was the board nominated the replacement for Chairman Tarkowski, who was then voted on by the board, and then that is how I became chairman for the interim. Chad Whale we discussed at the town level, replacements to my vacancy. I shared a suggestion, another board member shared a suggestion, the board finally settled on one of the two of those, and that's how Supervisor Wales returned to his spot, in that he had recently left that supervisor position, and he had supervisory experience for 2 years, so.
Do you know if it would be the rest of the term? Because that was just a short bit. It's like, would that have been like the rest of the term if it wasn't just happening right away?
Yes.
Okay, so it would be the full term?
Yes.
Okay.
So, I think there's a question. There's a question way in the back of it. Yes?
I just had a comment that, number one, how long has that particular bylaw been in place?
I can't say it's before my time, which was in 2019, so I
And
think
it's
for a
been
while.
working up until that point.
That's
my number one point. Number two is, the little bit that I know about state and federal government, it seems like it's mirroring the way the typical government actually plays, that to keep things simpler, you obviously have a chairperson in place for a reason. And that chairperson makes those decisions at the time that opportunities come up. And the reason why he was elected is that's why that particular person was elected, so that they can make decisions based on your voting base.
Thank you, Mr. Quirky.
I just pulled up the statute, and the statute says what the bylaws say. If the board can act consistently with the statute, then I guess you could do something different. All I